Greetings. This is Ra Imhotep coming with part 2 to the true history of Jesus as it pertains to the occult and the hidden knowledge that is destined to be fulfilled and revealed today. What I want to say in part 2 is that I was building in part 1 about Jesus being Greek, the whole story being from a Greek mythological standpoint, and his real name being Isis, because as I said, the J was not introduced into English until 1555. In part 2, I'm going to go into even from the Muslims and what they call Jesus, because believe it or not, the Muslims have a name for Jesus, and it's not Jesus. They don't call him Jesus. The Muslims call Jesus Isa. And I know this isn't any new information, and many of you know this, but the important part of that is that they even acknowledge him as Isa. And Isa goes back again to Isis. See, this is a Greek origin, beloved. Even the Muslims are tracing their story of Jesus back to the same Greek name, which is Isis or Dionysus, which is the same individual, the same character. Just a different name that they use, you know, a slight change in the name by calling him Isa, but really if you do the etymology of Isa, it goes back to Isis. See, this is of Greek origin. And Jesus spoke Aramaic. According to the scriptures, Jesus spoke Aramaic. So you might ask, well, where are you getting at with this? Well, the story of Jesus as it pertains to the Greeks and the story that was inserted into religion actually came from another figure. It came from another name or whatever. His name was Yeshua, because he spoke Aramaic. See, in Aramaic there was no Isis. They wouldn't pronounce his name like that. His name would have been Yeshua. And you know where they got the story of Yeshua from? They got the story of Yeshua from Yehoshua or Joshua, which can be found in the Bible as well. Joshua was the successor of Moses, and he was the one that introduced and ushered the children of Israel into the promised land. And he was called the Messiah. This can be found in the Bible as well. Joshua, Yehoshua, or Yeshua was called the Messiah. So as you can see, the story of Jesus is just a compilation of many different ancient deities. As far as Jesus Christ is concerned, where did they get Christ from? Well, Christ comes from Christos. It comes from Christos. And the whole thing about the whole Christ thing deals with being anointed. So the Messiah was anointed, and he became a Christ. Same thing. He became Christos, and he was anointed with oil. See, Christos is the same place that they get Crisco from, like the oil Crisco. So he was anointed with this holy ancient oil. And I'm not going to go into what this oil was right now in this video, because I don't want to shock and put too much information on my listeners at this point. But one day I will. I'll go into what the oil is. And if you do a little research, you'll find out what this holy oil of Christos was. But the important thing is that the term Christ or Christos came from Krishna, which is another ancient deity. And if you research the history of Krishna, you'll find out that Krishna and Jesus practically are the same characters. They have the same life. They basically did the same things. It's just that Krishna, his demonstration took place in India, and Jesus Christ's demonstration took place in Rome. But they practically have the same lives. They practically did the same things, and they basically demonstrated the same information. Another ancient deity from where the story of Jesus comes from is another deity called Tammuz. Tammuz. Believe it or not, Tammuz was a Sumerian deity. He was a Sumerian deity, and Tammuz, Tammuz means harvest. And if you research Tammuz, you'll find out the same thing, that his life parallels that of Jesus. Now keep in mind, all of these figures existed thousands of years apart from each other. So basically what I'm showing you here is that this is a theme The theme of Jesus and the story of Jesus, this is a theme that has been carried over from culture to culture. And I could go on. I mean, I could go into different cultures if I wanted to. And the bottom line is this. Well, before I say that, I want to say this about Tammuz. Tammuz is also a calendar month in the Jewish calendar. The name Tammuz is one of the months in the Jewish calendar, believe it or not. And this is going to tie into my next point. The story of Jesus, beloved, and I'm not trying to confuse you. So what we have covered so far is that the story of Jesus is a compilation of many different stories. And I've basically showed you this. And the theme of it for the Greeks was Zeus or Dionysus. For the Muslims, it was Isa, which goes back to the same thing, Dionysus. And if you go into the Indian culture, you would deal with Krishna, which is, if you research Krishna, his life parallels that of Jesus' life. But the importance of all of this, there's a reason for all of this. And you guys know I'm an astrologer. The story of Jesus is really dealing with astrological teachings. And I have three pieces of information that I will submit in this video to prove my point. First of all, Jesus was born under or in the house of Bethlehem. In the house of Bethlehem. And Bethlehem means the house of bread. Beth means house, and Ham basically deals with bread, Bethlehem. So this deals with the house of bread. And you might ask yourself, what is this house of bread? Well, the constellation of Virgo is depicted by a woman who is holding, she is holding bread. She is holding wheat in her hand. So this is where they get the term house of bread from. And the reason why is because Jesus was born under the star of Bethlehem. And he was a Virgo. Yes, Jesus had an astrological sign according to the scriptures even. The house of Bethlehem deals with the house of bread. So Jesus was a Virgo. And yes, he dealt with astrology and was a part of a secret society that were astrologers. And this is my second piece of information that I'll submit. His birth was tracked down by three wise men. They call them magi. Three magi. And these magi, they studied astrology. They were astrologers. And they were so good at the science of astrology that they were able to track down Jesus based on the Star of Bethlehem. This is how they were able to find him. And these three wise men were responsible for saving Jesus from Pontius Pilate and moving him into Egypt, which is very important. Because as a baby, Jesus, he went through his initiations. He was an Egyptian adept. Just like all of the prophets. All of the prophets had to go to Egypt before they became prophets. They all had to go to Egypt. Because the term prophet was actually a degree in the Egyptian mystery system. This was a degree in the Egyptian mystery system that initiates would achieve when they pass certain rites of passage and certain initiations. This is a secret society within the Egyptian society, and it's called the Egyptian mystery system, or the Commission mystery system. So this is where you're getting all this information and this history about Jesus from. It's a compilation of all of these different events, some of them astrological, some of them cultural, but it's a compilation of a lot of different events, beloved. So, like I said, we have to do our homework. We have to do our research so that we can find out the truth and the facts and separate them from the myths. Now, the last thing I'm going to submit as far as proof that Jesus is dealing with the astrological story is his ministry lasts for a year. Jesus' ministry lasts for a year, and if you research thoroughly Jesus' ministry, you'll find out that that's basically the whole story of Jesus is talking about nothing but about the sun going through various constellations. Like the whole story of Jesus. And I don't have time to go into every last detail here, but the reason why I'm saying that his ministry lasts for a year is because it takes the sun a year to travel through all 13 signs of the zodiac. And if you research the history of Jesus, you'll see that they submitted all this information into the Bible up under parables. Because remember, in the Bible, Jesus said he spoke in parables. But this isn't Jesus speaking. This is the priesthood telling you that they're basically using the story of Jesus and demonstrating it in parables to teach an astrological fact and truth, which is about the sun traveling through the 13 signs of the zodiac. And that's the point here. Religion is nothing but sun worship. All religions stem back to sun worship and to revering the sun, and this can be proved in the Bible numerous and countless times over. And this is important because many people in this modern day want to lie to you and make you think that there's something wrong with getting your astrological chart, like it's something wrong with analyzing the planets as far as from an esoteric point of view, but it's not, because as I said, Jesus was a part of an ancient brotherhood where they studied astrology. I mean, even in the history of Jesus, like the whole story is dealing with an astrological doctrine. So it's time for you guys to wake up. It's time for us all to wake up. And I'm specifically speaking to those that believe in Jesus as a historical figure and believe that everything that happened in Jesus' life happened exactly the way that the Bible demonstrates it, when what I'm showing you is that this is mythology. Even Jesus himself said that he was speaking in parables. See, these are parables that are documenting esoteric truths. See, this is the point here. These are parables that are documenting esoteric truths. And it's time for us to wake up out of this spell and to really deal with the facts, beloved. I mean, we have to really deal with the facts. So I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. I hope this helped. I want you to do your research on everything that I'm saying. Don't take my word for it. Check it out for yourself. Do your research. I'm not just sitting here making things up. I can back up everything that I teach. If you want to converse with me about this, feel free to send me an email at 13signsastrology@gmail.com, and I would be glad to answer all of your questions. I would definitely be glad to answer all of your questions. So until we meet again, I want to say peace and love at all costs.